Now, you know you're in trouble when the Liberal Democrats are your only hope. They are demanding that Parliament comes back to debate the effective rolling out of COVID vaccine passports by stealth. This after the government admitted this week that the threat of COVID passports for entry into nightclubs and other venues is there to encourage young people to have the jab. Now, for encourage, read blackmail. The NHS app has now been upgraded, if you want to use that word, to allow it to be used as a COVID vaccine passport in England. A new section has appeared on the app for domestic use, and it states you may need to show your NHS COVID pass at places that have chosen to use the service. Now, the government aren't even bothering to suggest that this tweak will be time limited. It's clear that as we sleepwalk into this assault on our fundamental liberties and indeed the autonomy of our own bodies, COVID passports will be irreversible. The infrastructure will be in place with which to link basic freedoms and indeed public services to our health status, a measure that will stay forever. In the course of one short pandemic, we are adopting policies from the People's Republic of China. We will be tracked, monitored and controlled by a digital ID system dressed up as a tool to keep you safe. This sort of measure can never be justified. We don't make medical interventions the law in this country. And it's certainly not justified for a nasty and highly infectious virus, yes, but one that is non-fatal to the vast majority of the population and which a third of people have been told to pretend they've got. And take a look at this front page in today's Mail newspaper. Big businesses are all too happy to sign up to medical fascism with a no-job, no-jab policy, which, notwithstanding the recent legal obligations on care home workers to have the jab, is surely against the law. Now, I back the vaccine. I've had it twice, so I'm pro-vaccine. The vast majority of adults have had at least one, if not two jabs, and all vulnerable groups have been protected. And millions have had COVID, which means leading virologists would agree that that's the best vaccine of all. So why inflict this dystopian nightmare of COVID passports on the British public just to guilt-trip young people into having the jab when they, in particular, face scant threat from the virus? And if the vaccine is so good, why is any of this necessary? And if the vaccine doesn't work, then we'll just have to crack on and live with the virus anyway. And why do any of this at what is widely thought to be the tail end of the pandemic? Even that numpty Professor Neil Ferguson says it's all over, bar the shouting. One prediction he may have got right: a broken clock is right twice a day. The economic cost of lockdowns and other COVID measures is appalling, but something that we will ultimately recover from. An assault on our basic freedoms and liberties is something we will not. We are now in a fight for the fundamental values of this country. Income tax was a temporary measure when introduced over 200 years ago. That didn't age well, did it? The legacy from this pandemic must not be a divided, fearful and digitally controlled and micromanaged population. Before the pandemic, the idea that the state could unilaterally inject us, cover our faces, control our movements and stop us from working would have been unimaginable. What's being threatened by the government is to make all of this a permanent reality. Many commentators cite the fact that a majority of the public back COVID passports and other measures. Well, I don't care. I don't care because basic fundamental human rights, freedoms and liberties must never be predicated on the vagaries of an opinion poll. These rights are sacred and ancient. They go to the heart and soul of this country and its very DNA. Britain is a free country, and millions fought in 2 world wars to keep it that way, which is why those freedoms must not now disappear in peacetime at the hands of our own government. Meanwhile, the Scottish Government have decreed that civil servants should state the pronoun by which they identify at the end of emails. So you know the drill: he, him, she, her, etc. Also, the Scottish Government sent a tweet with a public health notice to pregnant people. Take a look at this. There you go, pregnant people. Coronavirus vaccines are recommended in pregnancy to pregnant people. Now, at first, all of this nonsense was exclusive to the woke Taliban on social media. Then virtue signalling big businesses got involved. Remember when Barclays Bank said they were going to spend a lot of time working out what gender their customers are? There's me thinking that you went to Barclays for a mortgage or an ISA. Mark my words, if your credit score isn't high enough, your gender won't do you any favours whatsoever. He, she, it or they won't be lent the money. And now we have this strange ideology at state level. How dare any employer entreat staff to participate in this gender ideology? By all means, let people do it voluntary, and I am ultra pro-trans, with many friends who have taken that joyous and important journey. But denying the basic laws of biology cannot become government policy, and there's no such thing as a pregnant person. I could choose to identify as a female, no problem with that, I've been told. I've got lovely eyes. But you won't be getting me pregnant anytime soon. It's not the business of the state to take sides in this particular conversation. And it's certainly not Nicola Sturgeon's job to ignore the biological reality of men and women. And with a damaged economy, a society divided over independence, and with soaring levels of drug abuse in Scotland revealed today, I suspect that Nicola, she, her, has far bigger things to worry about. This is GB News.